Welcome to this very special episode of my series Navigating Change. And I promised some special guests and I'm not going to let you down. Today I'm with an amazing coach, Simon Hodges, who's been helping me on my journey. It won't be a surprise to those of you who've been watching the series of this career transition and really helping me find my passions, my values, and hopefully driving towards an amazing future, an amazing career for my future. Simon has been a friend of mine for over 30 years. His wife is my best friend. And so we have a relationship spanning, I hate to say it, decades. He knows a lot about me and I about him. And I've also been following him on his journey to becoming this incredible life coach. And so we're going to have a conversation today because I wanted to let you into the world of coaching. There's a lot of misunderstanding about coaching, and also there are a lot of coaches out there. So I'm going to introduce you to Simon, who is sitting next to me, and I'm going to ask you, Simon, how did you become a coach?
So it wasn't by design, Jo. I think it would be fair to say everyone's got their story, yes, and I use an adage all the time with my clients that we move away from pain far faster than we move towards pleasure. Mm-hmm. And that was probably how I became a coach, in all honesty, because I spent, I guess, 15, maybe 20 years of my career doing stuff that I really didn't like doing. I was a round peg in a square hole. It was tough. I mean, I spent 15 years in the finance industry. I'm not good at mathematics. I'm an English student. I love languages. I love people. And yet my learned behavior from much of my, sort of not through my childhood, I had an amazing childhood, but my learned behavior through much of my life was that actually what I really loved doing, I couldn't really make a career doing it, being creative. And my learned behavior was you need to get a proper job, you need to tick all those boxes, whether it's be a banker, lawyer, accountant, whatever. So my learned behavior was I need to do a serious job.
And you had the pressure of a family, right?
And I had the pressure of a family. I had an amazing time when I was in the British Army. I had 7 fantastic years. I got married very young.
You did.
a lot of pressure. But the next 15 years, it was a shit show, to be frank. I spent 4 years retraining as a chartered accountant, not a mathematician, doing English, French, and whatever, doing accountancy. It was 3 of the toughest years of my life. As you know, I had 2 very young children working incredibly long hours. And it was tough. And actually, that was what set me on my path towards where I am today, because that was where the pain really set in. And I use a metaphor, feather, brick, truck. Whatever lessons you need to learn in life, they will keep coming back to you with increasing intensity until you learn them. So I didn't get my feathers in when I did accountancy. I got 2 bricks. I ended up in A&E twice with intensive care. And my heart went all completely AWOL. I was fine, as it turned out. But that then set me off on 10 or 15 years of suffering with massive anxiety, eventually depression. I was incredibly successful. I went off and had an amazing 15-year career in the finance industry. I worked for Swires, one of the biggest family-owned businesses. I then ended up being a fast track to a partnership at Rawlinson Hunter, a trust business here in Jersey. And at the age of 35, 36, I was probably what most people would consider to be at the pinnacle of their careers, making a lot of money. And not that I defined success at all in my life by money, but I was. And yet I was miserable. I was incredibly stressed. I was miserable. I was depressed. I was probably very difficult to live with. And I could feel my mind was out of control. And that's when I got my truck. So in 2008, when I was at the pinnacle of my career, and I really was, I resigned from this partnership. My body literally shut me down. And for anybody who's listening who's been there or not been there, if you've had depression, you probably can empathize with this, but it feels like your mind is completely out of control. It feels like you've got rampaging. For me, it was like rampaging bulls in my mind. You really don't know how to get yourself out of it. And that's when I had to start getting a lot of help. So I went to doctors, do the usual thing. And doctors are great, but they're not trained in mental health as much as people are nowadays. And certainly weren't when I went there back in 2008. So I was medicated. And I then started to go on my own journey as I discovered what didn't work and what did work. And it was a long journey from 2008 to where I am today. But it's been an amazing journey because, where I sit today, I've discovered that actually, what I considered to be my greatest weakness when I was a child, which was my emotional sensitivity. And I just felt stuff. Like I feel people's emotions really, really easily in a room. And my kind of learned behavior was society doesn't want you to be emotional. Society doesn't want you to be vulnerable, for sure. Like that's a weakness. So my learned behavior was be sensible, be button up, less is more, be rational, be logical, be analytical. And of course, I was in that finance world where that was encouraged. But it was only after I started to go on my journey, and I went to courses, and I went to Tony Robbins courses and Robin Sharma, Brendan, all of the gurus. Yeah. And I started to find out by trial and error what worked and what didn't work. But it was as I started to find out by trial and error, I started to discover that actually, do you know what? This emotional sensitivity I have is actually really a superpower. And I remember doing a commercial due diligence job for a big firm, and I only had 24 hours to meet his key management team. And there was about 8 people I had to meet. And I met them all for about an hour and a half each. And the following day, I then went to meet the CEO, and I played back to him. I said, this is how I see your management team. And when I played it back to him, he was astonished at how I could know as much as I knew at a deep level about what his team, their behaviors and what was driving them. And I guess that was kind of one of the first times I went, oh, maybe I could actually do something with this. And that's when I then really started on my journey. And in about 2013-14, I then thought, well, actually, I was in a full-time job at the time. I thought I'd really like to get into life coaching. I never thought I would make it a career. Never. So when I first started training with IPEC, an American organization, I had a full-time job. I was based in Bahrain at the time. You remember, Joey? Yeah. And I kind of started to take on a few clients, but it was just small money at the time. But I kept saying to myself, because I had always been a type A achiever, always attached to the outcome. Like, you've got to make money, you've got to drive harder, you've got to be successful, you've got to have the house, you've got to have the classic stuff, yeah? But I'd learned that had made me miserable. And there is the quote by Einstein, definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results. So I guess I was curious, like, well, that's not working for me anymore. So I started to change. And that's when I really discovered, do you know what, I actually really love this coaching. Every time I coach a client, I come away going, this is great. But it wasn't making me enough money to survive on or to thrive on, but it was great. But here I am only 6 or 7 years later. And I hope I am living proof that actually, if you come back in alignment, and this is my message to all of your people, anybody who's watching this today, if you come back in alignment with who you were born to be, and you're bringing your unique gifts to the world, you will have all of the abundance and you will thrive like you've never believed in your life. So
let's stop there for a second, because that is where it is a good point for me to talk about my journey.
Yes.
Because you say that, that's really hard for most people to. And so if you have something that you're passionate about, let's say you've just been an artist all your life, it's your passion, it's all you know, and you're great. In a way, you're very lucky because you've kind of discovered what makes you tick. Now, one of the difficulties I've had and why we started working together, or you offered to help me, was because one of the other things that you just said is your weakness. I've always been a creative. And I'm proud of being creative. But the way I was brought up was that if you were creative, it was almost like a disability. Because, I was at school in the 80s. If I wanted to pursue a career in art or fashion or whatever it was that I wanted to do, it was almost like a sideline to an actual job. And so what we talked about very early on was this learned behavior, that being creative was something that, oh, she's creative. It meant you were something, and possibly not positive.
Yes.
I think that's changing.
Yes.
But this is what you've been helping me to come back to.
Yes.
Because discovering what is your true, what do you call it? Your true
self. Really.
Your true self.
Yeah. Who you're born to
for
be.
most people will be very hard because, I've come to a career transition, in my 40s. I've been doing something for all this time and earning a living and looking after my family. It's quite difficult to at this point to do that.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yes.
It's scary. And it pushes that button called fear. And when we get into a place of fear, we do one of 3 things. We go into fight mode. And if it's really scary, you're not, generally speaking, going to go into fight mode, or you go into flight or freeze. And that will manifest itself with fear-based emotions. So you're going to feel all the emotions that you would expect to feel. So if you're in fighty energy, angry, frustrated. But if you're in flight and freeze, it's going to be feelings of overwhelm. It's going to be feelings of even despair, or just kind of feeling lost, or feeling stuck. Like, I just don't know how to get myself out of here.
And do you think, all that resonates with me, and I think it might resonate with a lot of people because of this lockdown situation. So the lockdown has made everybody reevaluate a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of the way they're living their lives. And because we've had this enormous forced break, and
Yeah.
I know people have been working, very hard and in probably very difficult circumstances through this time. For me, I hit a career transition at the same time as lockdown. So I was forced into a sabbatical almost, because I couldn't do anything. So me, the purposeful, driven, focused, go get it person, had to stop and do nothing. And you said to me, even before we started working together, Jo, the best advice is do nothing. And I've talked about this in the series.
Yes.
Doing nothing is so difficult to do.
Yes, it is.
Because you're scared.
Yes.
And, I knew I've got to work. I can't just sit around and do nothing. I have to earn money.
Yes.
And but what it's done is given me this time and to build some perspective into what is it that I really want to do.
Yes.
Like you say, that's going to make my heart sing.
Yes.
That's going to give me this incredible opportunity to thrive and hopefully earn money.
And what would you say for you in terms of our journey so far was perhaps the biggest game changer for you in the early stages when we coached?
Oh my goodness, there's so many points. I mean, we started off a little bit talking about these learned behaviours.
Yes.
And that was really useful for me because, of course, we discovered that I'm a bit of a pleaser and a fixer, which would resonate with a lot of people. Yeah. And we've had long discussions about that.
Yeah.
But then you're not serving yourself, of course. And I think that's so hard for most people to do is to not, I want to look after everybody around me. I want to look after the kids. I want to be there for them and all that kind of stuff. So you put everybody first all the time. But there is a point where you just think, well, bloody hell, what about me?
We can talk about pieces and fixes in a minute, but I think one of the biggest lessons also, because we're talking about what happens when we're in a transition and it pushes those fear buttons. And where do we go when we're in a place of fear? Where we go is we go to our head.
Yes, you're going to bring up that expression that's taken me so long to understand. And it is?
In your head, you're dead.
What does in your head you're dead mean?
Okay, so
that's been hard for me.
Yeah,
in your head you're dead, because I'm a overthinker.
Yeah.
In your head you're dead. I mean.
So if you think about it, so I'll explain. So in your head you're dead. By the way, I should caveat that's not my quote. That's a Tony Robbins quote. Okay, so he's the guru. But in your head you're dead is, I have to say, it is absolutely a mantra for life, because we are taught at school, by the society, in the corporate world. There's a high value placed on everything to do with rational, logical, analytical, deep thinking, whatever it is. Yeah, but it's kind of that. But it's don't be emotional. Yeah, there's a very high value placed on being in your head. But the problem is when you're in your head, and it's fine because you can be in your head, by the way, and you could be doing stuff and reading a book, whatever, and be in your head. But the vast majority of the time that we're in our heads, what are we actually paying attention to? When you're in your head, you are very rarely in the present moment, because you are probably thinking about something in the future. So you may be planning or strategizing, but the key point is, what are the thoughts that you're paying attention to? Because it's the thoughts that come up in our head, yes, and a lot of them will be random, but there are some thoughts that we pay way more attention to than others. Yeah. And the question is why? And the reason why, as you found out, Jo, on our coaching, is because they're part of our belief systems. And our belief systems is basically where you, as part of your conditioning with parents, school, everyone around you, yes, your learned behavior has been, I didn't feel good as a child, because we all want to be three things. We all want to be worthy, we all want to be loved, and we all want to be enough. That's it. That's the bottom line. We are pre-programmed, all of us genetically, with that innate need and desire. But as children, you don't have the awareness to know, hey, in any given situation or any given activity or situation, I could interpret something in a different way. All you know is, I'm experiencing something. For example, let's say dad's never there when you're at sports day. Sports day is a big day for most kids. It's like, I want my father to be there, yeah? And your reaction to that is, dad doesn't love me, yeah? And your reaction to that is, I need to do something to protect myself because I don't like that feeling. And as children, what we do is we create stories. But we create these stories for a good reason, because it's like, I didn't like that feeling and I need to protect myself. So we create a story to protect ourselves. And that usually means that we do less. It usually means we go into flight and freeze mode, yeah? So we avoid doing things, or we play a little bit smaller in life. But conversely, what we also do, though, is it's like a double strategy. What we also do is we create a story that says, for me to be loved by dad, I need to be doing way more. Like, I need to be performing at a much higher level. I need to be passing my exams with A stars every single time. I need to be the best at school. I need to be the highest performer. And that, if I please dad, I'm going to get more love. But these are the learned behaviors that we pick up during our childhood. And what we don't realize is that we carry these learned behaviors, and there'll be multiple learned behaviors, by the way. We're carrying those learned behaviors, otherwise known as our belief systems, through our entire life. And for most of us, we're kind of not even aware. Yeah, it's more unconscious. We're not even aware that we're running this program. It's like a hardware program on a computer. It's just running for us, and we're not even aware that it's running for us. But we definitely become aware when things happen like create that pain point, yes? Or they create a change that's a bit scary. Then we start to ask better questions and we go, hey, what's really going on here? And we become way more aware about it. But that's the point. But when you're in your head, yes, you're paying attention to the thoughts that tend to be attached to your belief systems. And if they're attached to your belief systems, most of our belief systems are more limiting than they are empowering. This tends to be the case. You pay attention to, if you think about the internal chatter that goes on in your head, yes, you can give a name for internal, I call it my chimps, yes. My chimps kick off and that chatter is like pretty awful. I always say to my clients, if your friends spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, how long would they be your friends for? But that tends to be the chatter that all of us pay attention to. And when you pay attention to that chatter, it's going to result in you feeling something. And if it's negative because it's a fear-based belief, you're going to feel a fear-based emotion. And if you feel a fear-based emotion, you're then going to do something that manifests itself with a fear-based reaction and therefore action. So you're going to do one of three things. You're going to go into fight mode, and there's a wide spectrum there, because you could be really angry. I'm really pissed about something. I'm going to make this happen now. Or it could be you just feel frustrated, resentful, whatever it is, yeah? Or, as I see with most clients, what happens when something scary happens, particularly in this environment right now, when there's a whole lot of scary things going on, most people will go to freeze. And they will go into a place of overwhelm and slight ostrich mentalities, like I'm stick my head below the sand, I'll be okay. But it's a fear-based feeling that comes after the thought. But that's the point, is your belief system is just it's just thinking, yes? It's the thoughts in your head. But the thoughts in your head are going to keep you anywhere but in the present moment. They're going to be either reflecting stuff, projecting stuff into the future, saying, oh, this is going to happen, catastrophizing about what could happen, yes? Or you're going to be bringing stuff up from the past and saying, oh yes, I've seen this before, it's happened before, oh, it's going to happen again. You're then going to feel something pretty shitty, and your action is going to reflect that feeling. And so you repeat it time and time again.
And so what we're trying to do is to break that feeling, right?
Yes.
Actually, I'm thinking about what you're saying about parenting and praising the wins. And that's so difficult, isn't it? Because I'm a parent. And of course, you always praise the wins because they deserve some praise. But you can't praise them all the time, can you? Because that would also not be helpful to them. So I'm just sort of thinking about how do I deal with that so they don't have the same problems when they're older. You can't constantly say how brilliant you are.
Well, there's a really good reason for that, because at the end of the day, and again, you've been learning a lot of this, Jo, on our journey, is that, and that plays to your point about being a pleaser and fixer. Yeah. Because what's a pleaser and fixer all about is actually about, I need to have somebody else's validation. Somebody else needs to tell me that I'm loved, worthy, and enough. That's it. But I need somebody else to tell it to me before I can give myself permission to feel it. Yeah. So your learned behavior is, oh, I need to be doing loads and loads of that, this, that, and the other.
So obviously I came to you at a transitional moment for me, but of course all of us have been going through lockdown. And what comes up for me during this, and certainly for the conversations that I've been having with other people and people who've responded to the work that I've been doing with this series, is all around uncertainty. And I talked about, uncertainty is pretty much a certainty now, that we are living in a time of uncertainty, and this will go on for quite a long time. So we're going to have to get a little bit more comfortable with uncertainty, which I have to say is really hard for me. So one of the things you asked me earlier on that has really come up for me with the coaching that I've been doing with you was around the human needs. That you talked me through these needs early on, and we talked about where I was at when I came to see you in terms of those. So let's just talk about a bit about that. And talk about what you saw in me and what those human needs are.
So this comes back to what's driving our behavior, yes? This is not Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is kind of a little bit more fundamental. This is kind of what are the real core needs that we really need to feel we need to meet on a regular basis. And there are 6 of them, okay? So in no particular order, and that probably is useful for people who are watching this today. This is in no particular order.
You do speak very fast.
Yes, no worries. Certainty is one of
Yes.
them, okay? So we're in a very uncertain time right now, but there's a lot. Certainty is one of them.
Yeah.
Uncertainty / variety is another need, yes? Yeah. Some of us like to have some uncertainty and some variety in there. Another one is love and connection.
Yeah.
Another one is significance. Another one is growth. Another one is contribution. And the work that I did with you, Jo, in the early stages was, and you were just talking and downloading, and I said, right, okay, well, what do you think intuitively are of those 6? Not as you look at your life where you are now moving forwards, because that's a very different thing. Because the reason you're having this conversation with me right now is because you know that you feel things or you're in transition, and you're feeling feelings of some sense of inner conflict, like you want some change. So something's not working for you. So what's not working for you? So I asked you the question and I said, if you look backwards for the last 10 years, what do you think intuitively have been your top 2 needs and what you've been really looking to meet? And your answer was?
Certainty.
Yes.
And significance.
Yes. And how do they serve you?
Define significance for
people
watching.
Define significance. Yeah. So significance is really about, significance is obviously words have meaning and different meaning to everybody. So it's an incredibly important thing. But significance means essentially it's about ego. It's about needing some form of, you want to be valued. You want to be respected. You want to be seen to be respected. So you want to have a title. Yes. You want to have a big house. That would be significance. You want to be wealthy and have enough in the bank account. Whatever makes you feel that meets that word significant, I feel significant. Yeah. Maybe it's respected. Maybe it's valued. Maybe it's honored, whatever it is. But it's sort of encapsulated within that feeling. But it's an ego-based thing because it's about meeting your needs, yes? And there are actually fear-based needs, yes, which is an important point too.
Which was a bit of a revelation for me.
Yes.
Because I thought that was what most people wanted. Is that true, do you think, for most people?
Yes, 100% true.
Right.
So I can, without, no. So what part of the problem that I had for most of my life was I was running a program of certainty and significance myself. And it is I can generalize here, but it is an honest generalization. I would say 95% of the clients that I coach when I do this work with them have all been running that same program of certainty and significance. And there's a reason why. It's because society's expectations, cultural conditioning, school, corporate world, whatever, tells us all you should be ticking those boxes. You need to be making enough money. You need to have a job for life. You need to have a steady career. You need to get married. And
unless you have this, and this, you're not successful.
Totally. But as most of us discover, if you run that program for long enough, actually it does not make you very happy, because what you have is you have an outcome. Yes, you have all of those things, but you don't have the feeling inside that you want anymore. And because most people actually they're not really driven by, oh, I'm going to have, a huge house and I'm going to go on flash holidays. Most people are actually driven by connection and by growth and other needs. So that's the work we did next, which was, okay, so we know what's not working for you, Jo, and didn't really come as a surprise. And it was exactly the same program I run, as I said, many of my clients run. And I see time and time again, so many of my clients who are in their 40s, early 50s, whatever, and sometimes 30s even, for the more conscious, who get there quicker, going, I don't know what's wrong, but I feel like I'm in complete conflict with myself. I feel like there's something more in my life. I feel like I could be doing so much more. I feel frustrated. I just feel I'm done. Yeah. I'm so done.
Almost word for word. I remember saying that and crying quite a lot about this. I feel something. I don't know what it is. I'm so frustrated. I don't know what it is because I want to be able to attack and I want to use my purpose. I want to be purposeful and I want to be able to whatever it was. I remember that moment really distinctively actually because I felt so frustrated. And that frustration just makes you so upset. That's sort of gone now, but but I remember that was probably only after about 2 sessions, to be fair. But I think we started doing coaching because I already had that feeling, right? And that's maybe is that common for most people? They have something.
So that's the feather brick truck again. So that's again your body. That's your body intuitively telling you. Luckily you didn't have a truck or even necessarily a brick, but you were definitely getting feathers.
Had a few in the past.
Okay, so you've had a few bricks. We all do. We've all got our stories. But that was your intuition telling you that, like, if we pay attention, and this comes back to in your head, you're dead. If we all spent less time in our heads, less time in the future projecting stuff, and less time dwelling on stuff in the past, and if we all spent more time in our hearts and in our bodies particularly, we would feel a whole load more connected, and we'd start to Because the key thing is the feelings. Because we all mistakenly think, oh, it's about the outcome, it's about that box ticking, it's about having that car, it's about having that house, it's about the children in private education, whatever it is, yeah? We think that's going to make us all happy. And to some degree, of course, it does. But actually, what really makes you happy are the feelings you want more of in your life. And, for me, I can say emphatically that when I got my truck, I was really clear about what feelings do I want more in my life. And one of them was freedom. Like, there's no way I'm working for anybody ever again. Like, no, it's not going to happen. I want to be my own man.
Which is easier said than done.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
Yeah.
Because,
yeah.
that is also frightening for a lot of people.
Yes.
Because, of course, working for a company, although you could argue that in this day and age, there is no certainty in any company because they're all shifting like mad to try and survive this crisis. And certainly I've been getting a lot of feedback around that, is that, you thought you had a really secure job and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, it's all gone.
Yeah.
And that's a horrible feeling. And I think, and I talked about, either even if you've been there for 20 years or you've just started, the feeling is still really quite horrible.
Yes. But there's a really important point there though, because you touched on, which is uncertainty pushes people's buttons majorly, because most people have certainty as one of their top needs.
Correct.
So it massively pushes our buttons.
Which makes sense.
It makes total sense.
Because one of mine is freedom too, and variety.
Yes.
But of course, on the caveat, the other side of that, the caveat is I need to make money because I can't afford to just, float around and, it might come in, it might not. I've got bills, I've got commitments. We all got that.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a debate that we had. And I think most people would have that around doing coaching in this journey, because it's great to find what you truly are or who you truly are.
Yeah.
But if you've been earning a certain amount of money for most of your career, and that requires you to take a leap of faith, and as you say, the abundance will come, there's no guarantee. You can't give me a certificate for that. You can't guarantee it. So what's the experience you've had with your clients in that? Because that would be the proof of the pudding, right?
You can't, and I'm not telling anybody that they should just ditch their job and start something new tomorrow. You've got to be pragmatic, and you've got to be sensible about this as well, because you have, you've got cost bases and what have you. But the reality is there's two things here that I think are really important, and I think they're so important in the world today. If you cannot get on with uncertainty, so most people do not have a high threshold for uncertainty, full stop. So what's the message the universe is sending us right now? And it's sending everybody right now. It's, guys, what you thought was certain is no longer certain. If there is one certainty now, it's that there's going to be a shitload of uncertainty. So if you can't get not just comfortable with uncertainty, but actually, best of all, really start to lean into it and even embrace it, you're going to really struggle. And I can say that as a generalization. If you can't get comfortable with certainty and at least tolerate it, you're going to struggle. But if you can go further and lean into it and say, hey, what's the opportunity here? How can I actually, because if you look at successful entrepreneurs, they thrive off uncertainty because that's opportunity. They see it as opportunity. And it's all about the way that you see something.
Yeah, I like that. Actually, that really works for me.
Yeah, but uncertainty for most people massively pushes their buttons. But I can tell you right now though, and Tony Robbins says this, there's a direct correlation between your level of fulfillment and happiness and abundance in life, and not just your ability to tolerate, but your ability to thrive and to embrace uncertainty. It's a massively important one. And then the other point, Joe, which to pick up on what you were really asking me, which was, and this picks up on the point I made earlier about, what I perceive to be my greatest weakness was actually my greatest strength, which was my vulnerability, my emotional sensitivity. Actually, when you come back in alignment with who you were born to be, because you have unique gifts, and you know what your unique gifts are, and I now know what mine are too. But when you come back in alignment with who you were really born to be, and you're bringing your unique gifts to the world, it's pretty brave. And I'm not going to lie about this. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery, because you've got to stop paying attention to all of what I call the bullshit rules. Okay, the bullshit rules that people will tell you. You can't do this, you can't do that. You're not going to make any money. It's not going to work. You've got to stop paying attention to that and turn down the noise. And you've got to have enough inner faith to know that, I'm going to follow this course because it feels right. And I think one of the things that you've been experiencing a lot more of right now is that it feels right, but it's a bit scary.
It's really scary.
It's like, this is a bit scary.
But actually, what's amazing about it is that the initial leap of being really vulnerable and doing it through social media was terrifying for me.
Yeah, well, that's amazing.
Utterly terrifying. And I'm somebody who stands in front of 1,000 people and talks.
Yes.
So, people would say, oh, but you've got tons of confidence. Actually, I don't. I've got a great mask and I've worn it for years. So that was really, really terrifying. But once, as you said to me, and we had an amazing moment a couple of days ago, I have been contacted by people who are the sort of people that I would like to work with and who share my values for opportunities for work. And that has been a revelation. Yeah. And it's because I just chose to put myself out there with your encouragement. And speak my truth, although that can sound a little bit hippie, can't it? But it's true. Yes. And suddenly certain things have started to open up. Yeah. And that was a real kind of
huge
aha moment.
Yeah, it is for most people.
Because the things they're asking me to do, they're not work to me. Yeah. They're just
and yet you may well get paid for them.
And yet I may get paid. Yeah. They're just wonderful, amazing, opportunities that I would see as just my passion. Yeah. And I'm really good at it.
And what's the lesson here is when you step out of fear, you step out of your old beliefs, your old stories that you used to buy into. And when you step into a new story, but not a 2.0 version, because I'm not about that. As a coach, I'm not about, let's create a 2.0 version of you, which is not authentic to you. No. As a coach, what my absolute passion is, I need to bring whoever I work with back to being unapologetically them. Because I know that when that person is unapologetically them and they really know who they are, they know what their unique gifts are, and they're in complete alignment with themselves, their energy flows. Because life is all about energy. Look around you. Everything is about energy flowing. And if your energy is resonating now at a completely different level, at a much higher level, because you're no longer in a place of fear, you're no longer feeling those feelings of frustration, resentment, overwhelm, desperation, whatever it is, because you're in this shitty job. Yes, it pays the bills, but actually you feel pretty shitty. But now you're in a space of, oh, wow, I actually feel like I'm in alignment with myself. It's amazing how quickly things start to change. Amazing how quickly things start to change.
I wasn't even in a job that I really enjoyed my job before. Yeah. It's just that this moment gave me an opportunity to really kind of to reflect and to have perspective and to think, okay, am I ever going to get this time back? I never will. Yeah. You said that to me, actually. Take some time out, because of course my natural instinct was to go and find something else straight away. Yeah. And so I knew I was in a fortunate position to do that. So you have to be clear, because some people don't have that opportunity. So I was very fortunate. But honestly, it's been an incredible time. So I will never regret having taken more time than possibly is comfortable. Because there are looming bills. But it has been an amazing moment. Yeah. So, and I think you've done that with me as a coach.
Yeah, but you do the work.
Yes, but this is the message that I want to get across to the people watching. Yes. Is that, I've taken this leap of faith. Yes, I've written about coaching in the past. When I was a journalist, I wrote about it because I think I wrote about it in 2014, when it was really just on the kind of edge of people's...
Some periphery.
Yeah, I was there. People knew about Tony Robbins because he's very loud, he's very American, and he does these big events. Yeah. Actually, I didn't. Your breakdown in 2008. I just had my second baby, so I don't think I even remembered that moment. But I knew you'd started doing this work. Yeah. But you offered to do this for me now, and I didn't really expect to go through what I've been through. So I have to say,
has it been, Joe?
It's. Well, it does change your view on so many things. I feel calmer. Yeah. I haven't had...
Why do you feel calmer? I think it's really important for your
audience. I feel calmer.
Why do you feel calmer?
I feel calmer because I'm settled with myself. I'm settled at the weaknesses. Yes. Or not really the weaknesses, because being creative I thought was an amazing gift, but also it was seen as a bit of a weakness because I wasn't going to be an accountant or a banker or a lawyer or
that's one of your
a doctor.
Yes, I can't be. Yes,
I think that was through my education, actually. To be fair, because actually my parents were very supportive of me being creative. So it's really connecting back with that, and realizing that is something that I could use to earn a living. But also what I've learned is that my connection and talking to people. And connecting with people through whatever means is something that gives me an enormous amount of pleasure. And I've always done it. But through the constraints of whatever business I was working in, I've never done it for myself. And that's been something that's been
huge,
incredible.
Huge.
Incredible, and the feedback is amazing. So,
and I think another thing that was really big for you, and by the way, it was huge for everybody, and it was very huge for me, particularly for people who are high achievers. Who are quite stressor high achievers. So we're always like, we must be doing, I've got to be busy, I've got to be on this, I've got to be on the next thing, creating lists. So we're constantly in the future, by the way.
Yeah, I love lists.
So we're constantly doing, but we're not human doings, we're human beings. And I think we all forget that. And I think one of the biggest lessons that you've learned this last month or two has been to step out of action mode constantly in this cycle of next thing, which keeps you just busy, but it keeps you disconnected from yourself, the busier you get. And I think one of the most valuable lessons that you've learned this last couple of months, because you've seen the change, more importantly, you've felt the change, is once you start to connect with you and you just be, and you start to connect with how you're feeling about things, because I will never stop talking about the F word, the feeling word, It's all about the feelings. It is not about the outcome. You can have as much money as you like in the bank, but for every person, if you go and ask 100 million people, how would you feel if you had 100 million in the bank? Trust me, you'd get 100 million different interpretations. And some people would say it'd be their worst nightmare, and that would generate an awful feeling for them. What we really are looking for is the feelings. And what happened for you, a huge amount, and it happens for all my clients. That's why I've called myself the onion peeler. They call me the onion peeler.
Yes.
Is you're going to cry a lot.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of emotion coming up.
Floodgates are open.
Stuff that's stuck. When you start to actually uncover what are the shitty stories that I buy into that are just not true, that I created as a child. But I have been playing time and time again in my life, and you see the consequences, and you recognize they're not serving you anymore. And you go, holy shit! But actually, I created that as a child. I didn't know better. And when you actually allow yourself just to let go, it's amazing how your body wants to let go. Your body wants to let go. So, and by the way, panic attacks, if people are watching right now, panic attacks is your body telling you, I need to let go of some shit. You're not letting me let go. And of course, when most people get panic attacks, what they do is they resist it, which is exactly the opposite of what you need to do with a panic attack. You just need to lean into it, because your body is sending you a really strong message. There is emotional stuff in here that's trauma, call it what you want, but it's fear-based, it's old, but around your belief systems, there's emotional stuff here that needs to come out. It's just energy. All energy needs to flow. But you can't allow in new, great, anabolic, loving energy, until you let out. It's like a beaker, I use an analogy, everyone's beakers, depends where you are in life, but I know where my beaker was in 2008, it was full of fear, So I had to empty out that beaker of fear, and that meant it was like an emotional shit show for about 2, 3, 4 months. So much stuff came out. You cry, you feel exhausted, whatever it is, so much stuff's coming up for you. And then suddenly you reach a moment when you go, oh my God, I feel completely different now. I feel completely different. And then the good stuff can come in.
Yeah. I mean, the crying was weird though, because I wasn't sorrow so much. It was more this kind of frustration bubbling over and just kind of coming out in spurts. I would just be in the car and it'd be like, and then all of a sudden you feel better. And then just keep kind of going. And interestingly, when you reach a certain point, for me, the most important thing for me is creative thinking is something that I just want more of. I want to have more ideas and innovations and I love it. And it just keeps coming now. And that's the interesting thing.
And why is that?
Because I've unblocked all this energy and I'm in the flow. You call it the flow.
But why else is it there? You've unblocked all this energy, but why else is it there? Apropos what I was just saying before.
You do ask me these questions, and sometimes I can't answer them. What is it, Si?
Because you're in a state of being now.
Possibly.
Because this is one of the most counterintuitive things. So the best analogy to use is extreme sports people. How do you think these extreme sports people, like in Nazar, these enormous waves, like 50, 60 centimeter waves, how do you think somebody surfs that wave and comes off alive? Like, what state do you need to be in to surf that wave?
Committed 100%. You
need to be committed 100%. But what does that actually really mean? It actually means you need to be in a complete state of presence. You need to be 100,000,000% here and now. And you need to be so connected to your body that you feel everything. There is not one thought going through your head, particularly not one thought of what happens if I miss that? Oh my God, I'm going to fall off. Because whatever you focus on in life, you will get more of. That's an important one to repeat. Whatever you focus on in life, even if it's what you don't want, you will get more of it. So be careful what you focus on. But when you're in a state of being and you're truly connected and you're in your body and not just in your head, there's a symbiotic balance between the two, then you go into a flow state, which is what every corporation is looking for. It's what every creative person is looking for, is to go into that flow state where time stands still. You don't even recognize that 3 hours has gone past. It feels like 3 minutes, But your output is off the charts because you've let go of the attachment to the outcome. You're not thinking about the future. You're not dwelling on the past. You're not believing all these bullshit, shitty stories anymore. You're in your body. You're connected to yourself, and you're in your heart. And when you're in your body, you're connected to yourself and in your heart. That's when your brain can come alive too. Yeah. But your heart needs to be your master, and your brain needs to be your servant. But we are taught exactly the opposite.
We are taught it. But what's interesting is we're not taught it at university. I went to art college, and I remember so many occasions being up till 2 a.m. drawing, because we had to do so much stuff. We had sketchbooks and drawing, listening to, well, in those days it would be Nirvana, very loud in the basement of my parents' house, and I'd be drawing and you just don't stop, and you don't even know the time, you don't even have a watch, because that is an amazing state of, you're completely absorbed in that, and you've got this and I can actually feel that moment again, because that I was really happy. Actually, it really comes up for me. I can see it in the motion. But when you go into, I know, but when you go into a career, often you suppress that, don't you? Because you've got to earn money, and you might find yourself, I found myself working in a shop because I did a fashion degree and then realised I didn't want to be a fashion designer. Classic me.
It's okay.
So then I went and worked in a shop and I hated it. I hated it. So then I jumped off that cliff and went and worked in a nightclub. Which I quite loved, but it was very dangerous. I had to stop. But do you know what I mean? So there's, I think that's if you should pull back some of those feelings where you were totally free in terms of your spirit, your heart. If you can get that now, I want more of that.
Absolutely, and we can all tap into. And I often say to my clients, if they struggle with it, I say, okay, go back in time. Like, what were the times you remember when you just felt you're happiest, you're most content, or what are the words that really matter to you? Like freedom. Okay, when did you feel you're most free? Take me back to that moment. What were you doing? That's giving you a real clue, by the way, of actually what it is that really makes your heart sing. Really makes your heart sing. And and again, that's coming back to being authentically you, because these words have a meaning for a reason, because they're part of your value system. They're part of who you are born to be. And so if you're not living your words, these words day to day, like for me, I mean, my mantra is, we talked about the 6 human needs. Yes, I made a conscious decision, certain significance. That is not working for me anymore. Thank you very much. Love and connection, number 1. Country mile. It's like, if I'm not establishing connection with people, if I don't feel rapport, and most of all with myself, what on earth am I doing? And the next thing was growth. And growth requires embracing uncertainty, because you need to take risks. But as part of that, though, those words bring up kind of strong feelings for me. Like, growth for me partly is freedom as well. It brings up really strong words for me. And absolutely, those are really powerful things, because if you feel good, and this is the kind of what we were talking about before, if you feel really good, then good things are going to flow. Good things are going to follow, because again, your energy is vibrating at a higher level, and it's authentic to you. You're not in conflict with yourself anymore. You're not fighting yourself all the time anymore. It's not, frustrating having to push through all the time. Like, I've got to keep fighting through. No, you're in the flow. You're actually doing what you're supposed to do. And money is just a byproduct of being in the flow. If you're in the flow doing what you're really good at because you were born that way, money's going to flow. Cause and effect in life. Because money is just basically an exchange of value. And if you are doing what you were born to be, and the universe intended you to do, bringing your greatest strengths, then money will always come. But one of the biggest issues I see time and again with my clients is, it's easy for you to say that, Simon, but it doesn't work like that in practice.
Yeah, that is some of the feedback I've had.
Yes.
When I talk about what we've been doing and trying to achieve.
Yes.
But I think the problem is that once you've taken this journey, and I've started this with you, I can't go back to what I had before. Because it's not going to be enough for me. So I've just got to keep going with it. And that's a really good place for us to stop, actually. And I know you can follow Simon on his Instagram and on LinkedIn. And on your website, you have a blog as well. SimonHodges.com. To find out more, because we could talk for hours and you guys don't have hours. So thank you, Simon. It was great to chat to you, and thank you for all your support in this amazing journey of Jo.
It's a joy. It's a joy.